now we're going to change positions, and we're going to go to hook lying, which I think is one of the best positions to work on with patients, whether it's low back patient, lower extremity patient, trunk patient, use this for tons of people, but hook lying is a great position that you can work on, okay? So it's good for a lot of different reasons. So hook lying is lying down on their back, knees bent, okay? So what are some reasons that you might want to work in this position? Trunk stability, definitely. What else? Functional activities. What types of things do you need to do in this position?
Rolling.
Yep, bed mobility, definitely. Not just rolling and getting out of bed, definitely important. Scooting in bed, whether you're thinking neuro patients, ortho patients, your geriatric patients, a lot of them really struggle with scooting. What else? Okay, so all right, I'll give you a couple. For a lot of lower extremity patients, whether it's a foot patient, ankle patient, all the way up, once they can start to weight bear, and they're just cleared to weight bear, this is a great position to start getting some weight bearing in the legs. You don't think of a lot of weight bearing in here, but once we start doing some resistance, you'll definitely see some weight bearing going through the legs in this position. And a lot of what we do in hook lying, I'll show you some of the different things that we'll do when we get into bridging. There's a great correlation between some of the work in hook lying and gait. Okay, so I'll show you some of that as you're weight bearing through the legs and using them as you do when you're walking. Okay, so first, a couple things to think about in hook lying. Just going to have her with her knees bent, her feet not completely bent up, but I don't want her out here because then she gets no leverage through her legs. So I'm going to have her knees bent with her heels almost underneath the crease of her knees. Okay, and I'll show you just the resistance, just the stabilization that we're going to do first. Okay, so the first one I'm going to do, and I'm going to get up on the table to do it. All right, so I'll just slow this one down. Make it nice and easy. Okay, so just like we did with the prone on elbows, we're going to start working in diagonals. Okay, so right here, the first direction that I'm going to work in is either this diagonal or this diagonal towards me. Okay, the main area that I'm going to resist here is through her knees. Okay, so now I don't want to just take the palm of my hand and compress right in her patella into the groove because that's not going to feel very good. So what I do is make a little bit of a lumbrical grip with my hands and let the patella sit right in there, but I'm not actually resisting with the palm. I'm resisting on the medial and lateral aspect of my hands. So if I come in here, I cup my hands so her patella sit right in there, and all I want you to do is just hold this position. Don't let me move you. And I'm going to slowly come in and just start to build my resistance. And you can see, just let it relax. Can I roll this up a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just see. You can see her trunk engage as soon as we do this. So ready? I want you to just keep it here and hold it. And you see her trunk kick in. It has to. She's got to stabilize right there. Okay, so right here I'm just building my contraction. I'm really not pushing very much at all with my arms. I'm just leaning my body into her. Okay, just like we did with the on elbows position. If I am up here and doing it, I'm doing a lot more approximation. If I come all the way down here, I'm doing a lot more resistance. So the direction of my forearms will dictate the direction of, or how much resistance I'm giving. So right now, as I'm up above her here, I'm compressing, I'm giving her some approximation, but I'm not doing a lot of compression right through her joint. Now, if I were right here, straight on, all I'm going to do is compress her hip right into her acetabulum. So I don't want to do that. I'm off at a slight angle, so if you look at the direction that my hips and shoulders are facing, I'm pointing down here. So just off of midline to her. So again, I want you to just hold it as I start to lean in. Okay, and she's got to work to do that. You can see her trunk stabilizing right there. Okay, so I can work in that direction. Now, without moving my body, if I want to go in a different direction, what I can do is take my hands and come onto the proximal aspect of her knees, so right here, and now I'm going to pull up towards me. So now instead of doing approximation, I'm going to do a little bit of traction. So from here, I want you to hold it. You can see how that engages her whole trunk also. Okay, let it relax. So if you weren't watching, watch your trunk. As soon as I start to give some traction to her legs, hold it here, she kicks in to stabilize there. Okay, so for some lower level low back patients or trunk patients where you want to get into doing all your high level stabilization stuff, this looks simple, but this is very challenging for a lot of people. This is a lot of times where I'll start. Can they just stabilize here? Okay, now if you come in too quickly with this and you don't do an isometric, you're not going to get the type of response that you want because you're going to get the legs moving. You're not going to get that true stabilization. Okay, so to do some of the stabilizing reversals that we were doing before, I want you to hold here. Okay. Now again, just like we did, both hands are resisting 50-50. Now as I slowly take one hand off, I build my resistance with this hand. Now I can come around here and resist some rotation and hold it. So now one hand's pulling while the other's pushing. Okay, and I can slowly melt one hand off. Come around here. You can keep your foot down, keep it down, and hold it here. And I can do the same thing, just resisting with my rotation as one hand comes off and the other comes in. Okay? Keep it here. I can even keep my resistance here and just change my angle a little bit. So now I'm giving her a little bit more, getting those abductors to kick in a little bit more on her right side, her adductors on the left. Okay? I can also, so let it relax for a second, you can scooch up a little bit. So that was just resisting here. Okay? Another one that I can do to get even more stabilization, we do this a lot with some higher level trunk stabilization and facilitation work, is to get the arms to come in. Okay? So what I'm going to have you do, as I'm doing this, I'm just going to have you bring your arms straight up in front of you. Okay? So bring them together. We're going to keep them right here. Okay? So first I want you to just stabilize here and hold it. Holding here. Let's hold it. Move here. Okay, so like we did with moving to the arms and to the legs in the other position, I can come on here and keep my contraction. She's still stabilizing here, and I'm going to come up to her arms and hold it and get some good irradiation to her trunk. Okay, I can go here. I can come around to this surface of her arms. So she's doing, remember when we reviewed the upper extremity patterns, that bilateral chop, she's basically in that position because I'm pushing right up towards her left ear right now in that position, and she's really working to stabilize here. Okay? But with all of this, I'm not letting her move. Okay? Just keep your arms there. I'm going to come back to her legs, and as long as I don't come off of a contraction, she's working the whole time. Okay? Let it relax. Breathing's important. If you do this long enough, they're going to breathe. They're not going to hold their breath for several minutes. So we'll work on just being in this position, working on your resistance at different positions. So whether I'm here, and again, not compressing through her patella, but more cupping, so it's a lot more comfortable. Whether I'm here, one and then the other, you can go to the arms, but just stabilizing, keeping that position. Then we'll look at a lot of how we do movement in this position.